A yeshiva bacher once came to Rav Moshe Feinstein before Ben Izmanim, and he wanted hadracha from the Shiva, the Gadol Hador, Rav Moshe, in how he should act over Ben Izmanim. And Rav Moshe said that Mistam, where you go back to, probably in the town where you come from, there's a shear between Mincha Maariv. You're going to be davening in a mini, of course, between Mincha Maariv, and the Rav will probably give a shear like a Mishnah shear. And you being an established yeshiva bacher would probably take that 20 minutes, that time, and learn Gemara, right? So he said, I don't want you to do that. He said, one, it could be hurtful to the Rav, and his feelings count. But also, and this is the point I wanted to get to, he said that if you do that, so then the other people are going to see you not participating in the shir, and it could be to weaken it for them. And therefore, you should join the shir. So I thought Rabbi said this is a gewaldig example of Roas and Olad in terms of Ben Lechavero, in terms of seeing. The first thing the Rav might be offended. That's just sensitivity. That's sensitivity. That's another thing. That's very good. That's not Roas and Olad. But the second thing Moshe is saying is, look, where's it going to lead to? Where's it going to get to? What's the shlav? What happens if you don't participate? That's Roas and Olad. That's seeing the Nolad. And that's such a good example of how Roa Nolad is very important. Most I have to tell you honestly, I was thinking that the time had come to move on. My sense, we'll talk about this more maybe a little bit next week, but my sense is that we've dealt a decent job with Roas and Olad, and really it's kind of like, I don't want to say a life's work, that makes sound scary, but it's something that a person has to keep in mind all the time, just like in that. And you either kind of like you're in it or not, and you have to, hopefully over the 5 or 6 weeks we've dealt with it, everybody's seen how that it's important and encompasses a lot, and that therefore we should do it. And if you choose to do it, it's not that hard to do it, but just like that story of Moshe, it's not like after we think like, whoa, that was genius. How in the world? It's just like, oh, you know what? Right. What's it going to be? What's the whole situation? Like Rabbeim was saying, what's the Chacham? And the Chacham is to be tofes the whole situation and where everything, not just to live in your own little picture of the right here and now, but it's to see the whole picture and how my actions affect, and that's Chachma, to understand the whole picture and where my actions and my lack of actions, my speech, my lack of speech, my smiling, my lack of smiling, my whole self and other people's self, what's going to come out from it, and not just live with it. That's chachma, and you have to make a decision, and you have to really kind of try to live. I'm talking to myself. We have to make a decision to try to live with it more and more. But I thought before we move on, there's one Rosh and Olad which we have to talk about, a unique Rosh and Olad, and I think it'll be lacking for us not to talk about it. I know I need a chizuk in it for sure myself, and it's thinking about the afterlife. Yeah, that Nolad, the big Nolad, right? There's Rosh and Nolad in a simple way. I happen to be speaking today in another yeshiva. Baruch Hashem, I was able to print my Sefer third time. If you don't own it yet, you're welcome to get it. But thank God we printed again, and I don't know if I'm going to go on a big tour, etc. But certain places depends on the connection and the possibilities. So today I'm going. So I have to be Rosh Hashanah. What time do I have to end the Vaad? What time do I have to order a taxi? How much do I have to need? That's Rosh Hashanah. It's going to take time. That's a very basic Rosh Hashanah. Ramosha's example, that's on a higher level. I'm Rosh Hashanah to think how my actions will affect and Yiddishkeit in general, and Rav's feelings, and the Yiddishkeit and the Limud Torah of a Balabas, of the Balabatim, etc. But then there's the big Rosh Nolad. The Nolad is the big. I think that's probably the biggest Rosh Nolad, is that I'm producing, my Olam Haba, or Chatz V'Shalom the opposite, right? We all tend to relate to this world strongly and in a real way for many reasons. We're physical. We're physical. We relate to the physical world. We have five senses, and the way we take things in is through the five senses. Things speak to us, right? We're excited about a good meal. We're excited about a vacation coming up. We're excited by a nice sunset, right? A nice smell. All those things, that's a world which is very, very, very real to us. And we see our actions in the real world. I'm offensive to someone, they're upset, I make someone happy, get a smile. that's a world which is very real to us, on its lower levels of just hedonistic pleasures, and on the higher level of doing mitzvahs and masim tovim, etc. But then when you talk about the fact that, what, it's not just like that. No, no, no. You're producing your olam haba. The days of a man are 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, 100, 110, 120, 130. That's it. Ending, right? Think of it like this. We're now in 2026, 26, yes? 25. Closing in on 26. Thank you. We're closing in on 26, but we're in 2025. Think of it this way. No one who was alive in the 1900 is alive, and almost no one who was alive in 1910 is alive today, and almost nobody who was alive in 1920 is alive today. And almost nobody who was alive in 1930 at that exact year is alive today, right? Anybody in 1930 would make them 95. Aren't that many? Quite a few, but aren't that many, right? 1940, okay, you know. Okay, the start of the war, then already talking about 85-year-olds, maybe a lot more, 80, 50, 75-year-olds, 60, yeah. But you think about it like that, think about that. The people who are alive, there are very few people today who are alive in 1930. There are very few people alive who were alive in 1935. 1935 is not so long ago. I mean, that was right the middle of the year. The world was inexorably moving towards the Second World War and the Holocaust on a Jewish level, right? That's what we were moving towards. That period, which is very alive to us, and we all know a lot about, and some of us more, some of us less. The Axis countries, Japan, it's getting together with Germany, is getting together with Italy, right? And then surprisingly, Stalin makes a pact with Hitler, etc., moving things in line, and the democratic powers aren't moving when Italy is taking over Ethiopia, when Yamach Shemo is taking over Austria, and then when it's in the Sudetenland, and then okay, we moved. That's a period which is very alive by a lot of people more connected to history. But as Jews, we're all maybe the specifics of what I said just now. You didn't know the ins and outs, but we know that there was somebody called Adolf Hitler. That was happening at a time when almost nobody's alive today. It's not ancient history. It's not the American Revolution. Almost nobody's alive from that time. So that's it, right? That's it. Kol Shekain 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago. So that means that this world is just it's a dream, right? Now, I am good at describing things. I'm worse sometimes at living by them. And I know for me, this is a hard thing to live because my feelings and my desires and my desire for food and for whatever else I want in this world is very apparent to me, real to me. And to think about the fact that one day, we all won't be here, and I have to now invest for that is very difficult for me. And it's difficult for all of us. So why am I speaking about it? Because I think that's one of the most important roas and nolads that we can live in. And just to make roas and nolad, just the din and chachma, like the emes chacham is the one who lives with the real nolad. The emes chacham is the one who lives with the real nolad. It's easy to live with the nolad of how do you get to grus on time and be a nice guy. But how are you going to live with that nolad? The big nolad that every mitzvah I do is creating for myself a world. Whether I relate to it, whether I don't relate, whether I understand, whether I don't understand, I'm creating a world. And God forbid every avera, v'chulei, right? I don't want to speak about it, but how do we make that a reality to ourselves, friends? Right? We have to train ourselves, our Rosh and Oled, a little for that. That's why I felt, again, my Natia was when I was thinking about things Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, I said, hey, we're gonna move to. I saw actually a very nice thing, another type of chacham that we're going to talk about eventually, based on the Ramban at the end of Brachos. Very exciting. A new nolad. Not Chazal talking about this chacham, but the Ramban does, and I think it's something to work with. So we're going to learn the Ramban. So that was good. I found something new to speak about, and I said, we're going to talk about Aizehu Chacham Halom Kol Adam, right? Which I'm excited to talk about. But then I said, you know what? No, 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 you can't do that. You can't do that. You have to spend 1 week talking about the big nolad. For your sake, for everybody's sake. And I say it about most things, and I mean it, but I really said about this thing. It's something I need a lot of chizuk in, and a lot of, and we're, the good thing about vadim I think, I don't know if I told everybody this, but Rav Leifler told me one time that Rav Wolbe said he wants to make a Vaad with him. Maybe another Talmud, maybe Yudah Mendelssohn, or maybe someone else. I don't remember. I assume it had to be more than just Rav Leifler and Rav Wolbe. Rav Leifler said, nothing doing. I'm not making a Vaad with you. You know what I'm saying? And I think the point was that Rav Leifler was saying, I can't make a Vaad with Rav Wolbe. Like it's because the point of a Vaad is we're working together. I can't work together with Rav Wolbe. He's like the Rebbe. Rav Leifler didn't explain to me, but it's something like that. But here we're working together. Now it happens to be we're not all around the table and I'm talking, but we're working to. I'm trying to work on these things. I'm not just here getting up saying the truth and letting you plebeians figure it out. We're working together, and I feel that this topic more than other topics, and I think this one specifically. And I'm sure some people are better at this than me, but we have to do that. And I think we have to do that. And it's worth our thinking about. There's a big nolad, right? The real nolad is what's nolad for my mitzvahs. The real nolad is what's nolad for my averis. And a chacham is roa that. It says, I invest in that. A good investor doesn't just grab the first investment. I see this piece of land. In 3 weeks, I can turn it into a parking lot. Gavaldik. And I'll make $120,000 a year. Very nice rebach. I buy this lot for $100,000. In 1 year, I made 20, and then it's rebach after that. I'm going to clear $110,000 a year. Gavaldik. Gavaldik. Yeah. Well, it's not Gavaldik if you could have made it into a skyscraper. If you made it into a skyscraper, buddy, you're not making $110,000 a year. You're going to make $50 million in 10 years or 15 years. It can take you 15 years to build a high skyscraper, and you're going to have to invest and put yourself out a little bit, but then you have a skyscraper. You know how much more money a skyscraper makes than a parking lot? You can have a parking lot in the skyscraper, and you can sell it for millions of dollars. That's Ross and Oled. I see something. I don't get stuck in the immediate gain of the parking lot. I want to build a skyscraper. That's mamish a nice marshal for what's going on in this world, right? This world we're investing and we're building a parking lot, but the next world is skyscraper. Yes.
I think the Rosh Hashiva just alluded to it, but I was thinking, can the Rosh Hashiva comment on why the Lashon Chazal's voice and a nolad as opposed to roa as a asid?
No, it's what's being produced. Nolad means what comes out from. It's what's coming out from my meisim. Asid means that right now I'm going to predict, what's going to happen in American politics. Let's say here it's that what you're producing. It's being in nolad means what comes out of birth to it. So it's me. It's a much stronger idea that's possible, right? By tzaddikim, the stories about the Stipler, they saw I put in now and I'm creating something. They live with a nolad, right? The asid is dependent on me. I'm being molded this Ayom Rat Olam, right? I do relate to that. On Rosh Hashanah, I'm producing the next year. Rosh Hashanah is always a big day by me. Not because I'm a Breslover, Rosh Hashanah was a big day before Nachman Zatzal, right? It was Chusu Yogan Aleinu. Rosh Hashanah is a big day. Rosh Hashanah, I think it was Blachman. I think Blachman put it in me. Rosh Hashanah, you're producing the next year. Yom Rat Olam. I think it was probably Blachman, and they put it in me. And so Rosh Hashanah I always take very serious. Rosh Hashanah Yom Noraim mean a lot to me. You're producing the next year. I think not just because it's the din, it's the production. I see that I feel in Rosh Hashanah producing the next year. Yeah. I'm being molded the next year. Hayom Harat Olam. I'm giving birth to the next year. So I relate less to the fact. I know it. I'm talking about emotionally, where it is. I know that it's true that my meisim are creating that. I get it. I can speak about it, but it's less in me. Yeah, personally. And that's the nolad is what it's producing. That every mitzvah is producing something. Even little kids get it in their blood to a certain extent. You're building a castle. Every mitzvah is building something. And Aizehu Chacham is breaking it down. That's an OLED. They're both like, and I'm learning Masil Sharman podcast, something separate, but the whole first paragraph is about this, right? And the first paragraph of Masil Sharman I consider one of the most important hashkafic works. That first paragraph itself, standalone, is something incredibly basic and important. And basically, the way he says it is that's what it's all about. Now, why is that? Let's give a little understanding to it. Why is the next world so important? Because our essence is neshama. It's not our body. Elia Lopian used to call our bodies a fleshy gebeged. It's a physical coat. I I have my half wool, half polyester jacket. I have my silk tie. I got my cotton shirt. I got my glasses, and I have my body is just our bodies are just clothes because our essence is the soul. Now that we get, but understand, if you understand that your essence is the soul, that means you understand that the Iker is Olam Haba because this world, the Olam Hazeh doesn't speak to the neshama. It's something it has to go through, but it doesn't really get it, doesn't appreciate it, doesn't like it, like the Mesilas Yesharim speaks out, right? So that's another way of understanding. That's part of the problem. This no-lot of Olam Haba seems so far removed from us. But the soul doesn't. Everybody knows that, right? Soul food, soul music. We want to be neshamadik, right? We want to have high level on these things. Well, guess what? That part of you isn't really happy in this world. That's where the problem is. Okay, so all the training in Roas, and what I'm trying to get to is this, friends. All the training in Roas and Ola that we've done over the last 5 weeks has to get us to register us in this way. And here's a bunch of questions which I want everybody to think about over the week, right? To bring it home to ourselves a little bit, right? And here's the questions I want you to think about. What's the result of all my mitzvahs? What's the result of all my chas v'shalom averos, right? Where is my body going to end up? Where is my soul going to end up? How can I become better at thinking about these things and not letting go of them? Because I think, when you hear someone speak about it, it's like, oh yeah, we nod our head, but then it flies out from us. Listen carefully. How can I think about these things and not get heavy or sad or morose? Right? Usually people are doing one or the other. Sometimes we imagine someone who's an Olam Habadika person being a little bit heavy, but that's not the tachlis, right? And we imagine someone who's into Olam Hazeh being happy, right? In a certain way, let's be honest, right? People are having very good time at baseball games and at restaurants and at concerts. They're having a good time. The people think about Olam Haba, they're like sad because the world's life's so serious. So that's not going to be helpful to us. So we have to think how do I live with this machshav in a sympathetic way? And finally, how can I get these thoughts to affect my actions, right? Like the Mishnah says, "Istaka b'shlosha dvarim ve'en atal bali de'avera." So either I don't do it. Most people either they don't do it. That advice of the Mishnah, or they do it and it doesn't have an effect on them. So how can I improve that? So I'm gonna review that again. Those are just some of the Roas and Olad I think of this topic, right? What's the? But again, the point is not giving. It's not a test. There's no there's no multiple choice coming up once the VOD finishes. It's not about having the right answer. Everybody has the right answers. It's about integrating a little bit this knowledge. I'm talking to myself, right? Again, how do we want to integrate this a little bit into ourselves? Not just that we can answer well, right? People who like to learn like to learn. People like to daven like to. People like to go to Kalabach Minyan like to go to Kalabach Minyan. It's part of them. It's what they look forward to. This Shabbos meals or restaurants, right? Here it's something that's outside of us, so we have to bring it in a little bit. What's the result of my mitzvahs? What's the result of my averis? Where's my body going to end up? Where's my soul going to end up? How can I become better at thinking about these things and not letting go of them? How can I think about these things and not get heavy, sad, or morose, right? And how can I get these ideas to affect my actions? Okay. Now, this is truly crucial stuff, obviously, and worth a week of our time. Action Kabbalahs are great, definitely, and that's why we often give them and we do them. Do this and think about that. But sometimes just spending time on focused thinking is as important or even more important because we don't necessarily have time to think about these things often, right? We don't think so. Part of what the job of Avad is, I think, is to be able to help us focus and to spend time and think about what we want to think about. And that's what I want to think about this. The Roas and Oled as it relates to Olam Haba and the next world and all that we listed there. And I wish everybody, it's likely that next week we're going to turn gears and get to Aizehu Chacham Roas and Olad. You never know. Maybe we'll think of some other thing. I don't want to go through all of Ritzi Meyer's things. I think I think we established the idea, and I'm not sure we're going to get so much by going more and more into it. And I think it's just kind of something we have to live with. But I thought for sure spending 1 week on Roas and Olad as it relates to the big Nolad, it was absolutely necessary. I'm happy we did it. I hope I'll do it myself and hope we all do it. And I wish everybody had luck, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Shalom.